Before forests ruled the continents, before the age of dinosaurs reached its height, Earth was a planet of vanished seas. Entire oceans opened, deepened, and died long before human memory, swallowing mountain ranges, birthing monsters, and shaping the world beneath our feet. What we call land today was once drowned under black water, older than any civilization. And in those forgotten oceans, life fought, adapted, and transformed in ways that still haunt modern science. Because the greatest lost worlds in Earth's history were not kingdoms on land. They were silent, colossal, prehistoric oceans, and traces of them are still here. Imagine standing on a shoreline that no map could ever show. The sky is thick with volcanic haze. The moon hangs above a dark horizon, and before you stretches an ocean that no human being has ever seen, an ocean so ancient that even the Atlantic would seem young beside it. This was not the world we know. This was Earth when its continents were still assembling, tearing apart, and drifting like wounded rafts across a restless planet. Long before the familiar blue geometry of modern seas, there were other oceans, older oceans, forgotten oceans, whose graves are now hidden inside mountains, deserts, and stone. Most people imagine prehistoric Earth as a land story. Dinosaurs crossing fern-covered plains, giant reptiles roaring beneath alien skies. But the deeper truth is far stranger. For most of our planet's history, the greatest dramas unfolded underwater. Oceans were the true empires of prehistory. They controlled climate, carried the chemistry of life, drowned continents, and opened pathways for creatures that would redefine evolution itself. Some lasted hundreds of millions of years. Others vanished so completely that only fragments of ocean floor, trapped high in mountain belts, tell us they ever existed. Among the most mysterious of these vanished worlds was the Panthalassa, a global superocean so vast it once covered nearly everything. Around it drifted the supercontinent Pangaea, like a giant island in an endless planetary sea. To imagine Panthalassa is to imagine an ocean larger than all modern oceans combined, with storm systems of unimaginable power and currents that circled the entire Earth. Its waters touched coastlines that no longer exist. Its depths hid ecosystems unlike anything alive now. And yet Panthalassa is only part of the mystery, because surrounding, splitting, and consuming ancient landmasses were other oceans too. The Tethys, the Iapetus, the Reich, names that sound almost mythical because in a way they are. Scientists care about these lost oceans for a reason that goes far beyond curiosity. Each vanished sea rewrote Earth. When oceans opened, continents separated. When they closed, mountains rose. When circulation changed, climates collapsed. Whole lineages of life expanded or disappeared depending on the temperature, oxygen, and chemistry of these waters. Ancient oceans did not simply surround history. They created it. The Himalayas, the Mediterranean, even the minerals beneath our cities carry the fingerprints of seas that died millions of years before humans arrived. And then there is the more disturbing revelation. These oceans are not entirely gone. Pieces of them still survive deep inside the planet. Slabs of ancient seafloor, dragged into Earth's mantle by subduction, descend like stone ghosts into the darkness below. Using seismic imaging, researchers have begun to detect these cold remnants buried far beneath the surface, as if the planet still remembers oceans that vanished before mammals even existed. It is one of the strangest ideas in science, that Earth may preserve the shadows of dead oceans in its own interior. So the story is no longer just about lost water. It is about a planet that erases worlds, then hides their remains in stone, in pressure, in silence. The oceans we know may only be the latest chapter in a far older cycle of birth and destruction. And if entire seas could disappear, taking with them climates, creatures, and continents, then one question becomes impossible to ignore. How many worlds has Earth already buried? And what else was lost with them? Because beneath every coastline we trust today lies a terrifying possibility. That our world, too, is temporary, and that the oceans shaping civilization are only arrangements in an older planetary dream. To understand these lost oceans, we have to stop thinking of Earth as stable. It is not stable. It only pretends to be. Beneath the continents, beneath the familiar geography printed in classrooms and atlases, the planet is in motion all the time. The crust is broken into colossal plates that drift over deeper layers of hot, slowly moving rock. They collide, pull apart, sink, and rise again. And oceans are born in the spaces between those motions. Every vanished sea in Earth's past began with a wound. When a supercontinent started to crack, magma surged upward from the mantle, thinning the crust, splitting land apart, and creating long rifts that filled with water. Over millions of years, those fractures widened into oceans. This is how an ocean begins, not with peace, but with violence stretched across unimaginable time. Then comes the second act. As seafloor forms at spreading ridges, it moves outward like a conveyor belt, carrying continents apart. The newborn ocean deepens, sediments fall, marine life expands, currents establish themselves, climate changes. The planet reorganizes around water. But the same process that gives an ocean life also writes its death sentence. Because oceanic crust is dense, and eventually, somewhere along its margins, it begins to sink back into the mantle. This is subduction, one of the most powerful mechanisms on Earth. Whole slabs of seafloor dive downward beneath continents or other ocean plates, dragging with them water, carbon, and the memory of vanished ecosystems. If spreading creates the ocean, subduction consumes it. Over tens or hundreds of millions of years, an entire sea can shrink, narrow, and disappear. Its basin closes, its islands collide, its sediments are crushed upward, and the floor of an ancient ocean becomes the summit of a mountain range. This is not poetic exaggeration. It is geological reality. Parts of the Alps, the Himalayas, and other great mountain systems contain marine limestone, fossil shells, and fragments of oceanic crust. In some places, scientists have found ophiolites, slabs of ancient seafloor thrust onto land like exposed pages from a destroyed world. Imagine touching a mountain and realizing it was once the bottom of a vanished sea. That is how completely Earth rearranges itself. The Tethys Ocean offers one of the most astonishing examples. Once it spread between ancient continents like a tropical corridor of life, warm and immense, hosting marine reptiles, coral systems, and evolutionary pathways that linked distant shores. But as Africa, India, and Eurasia moved toward collision, the Tethys began to die. Its waters narrowed, its floor descended into the mantle, its coastlines vanished. What remains today are scattered descendants and echoes, the Mediterranean, the Black Sea, the Caspian, and rocks lifted into mountain belts from southern Europe to Asia. An ocean became fragments. A world became clues. Yet the deeper twist is even more unsettling. Scientists are now using seismic waves from earthquakes to peer into Earth's interior like a planetary CT scan. And what they are finding suggests that some ancient slabs of ocean floor did not simply melt away. Some may have descended into the lower mantle and remained there for astonishing lengths of time, preserving the outlines of oceans that vanished hundreds of millions of years ago. In other words, Earth may contain a hidden archive of prehistoric seas beneath our feet. Not in books, not in fossils, but in the deep mantle itself. That changes everything. Lost oceans were not merely erased. They were folded inward, stored in darkness, influencing volcanism, mantle flow, and perhaps even the long-term evolution of the surface world. The seas of prehistory did not end when their waters vanished. They continued below as buried architecture inside the planet. And if Earth is still carrying the remains of dead oceans in its depths, then we are only beginning to understand the true scale of the worlds that existed before ours. And that is where the story becomes larger than prehistory. Because once we understand that oceans can be born, dominate the planet, vanish from the surface, and still haunt the interior of Earth, we are forced to confront a far more unsettling truth. The world we call permanent is only temporary arrangement. Continents are temporary. Coastlines are temporary. Even the oceans that define civilization are temporary. Earth does not preserve worlds. It recycles them. The prehistoric oceans were not just settings for ancient life. They were engines of transformation. They regulated heat across the planet, influenced atmospheric chemistry, and determined whether entire branches of life would flourish or collapse. When circulation shifted, oxygen levels in the sea could fall catastrophically. In some ancient intervals, vast portions of the ocean became suffocating dead zones, hostile to complex life. Marine ecosystems crashed. Food chains shattered. Evolution was reset. Some of the greatest extinction events in Earth's history were tied not only to fire from volcanoes or impact from space, but to profound changes in the oceans themselves. The water that gave life also became a mechanism of destruction. That should change the way we see the sea. We tend to imagine oceans as passive backdrops, blue surfaces surrounding human history. But in the age of lost oceans, water was an active force, almost a planetary intelligence without thought, redistributing carbon, transporting nutrients, shaping weather, erasing habitats, and deciding which organisms would inherit the future. In prehistoric oceans, monsters evolved because conditions allowed them to. Entire ecosystems became experimental laboratories of evolution, producing armored fish, giant marine reptiles, ammonites with spiraled shells like living mathematics, and predators so strange they still seem half-imagined. Yet almost all of them vanished with the worlds that made them possible. Their extinction was not always dramatic in a single instant. Sometimes it came slowly, through warming waters, acidification, falling oxygen, collapsing circulation, and shifting continents. A world can die gradually and still die completely. That is the disturbing implication. Earth's greatest transformations often happen too slowly for any living creature to fully witness. No dinosaur stood on a cliff and understood that an ocean was closing forever. No marine reptile saw the tectonic future approaching beneath it. Life lives in the moment. Planets do not. And humanity, despite all our maps, satellites, and science, may still be trapped inside that same illusion of permanence. Because the mechanisms that destroyed ancient oceans have not stopped. The Atlantic is still widening. The Pacific is slowly shrinking. The Mediterranean is a remnant of a far greater sea, and in geological time may disappear entirely. New ocean basins may one day open where continents split apart. Future mountains may rise from seafloors that today lie in darkness. If Earth had observers 100 million years from now, they might study our world the way we study the Tethys or Panthalassa, as a lost arrangement of water and stone. And perhaps that is the most humbling lesson of all. Human beings measure history in wars, empires, inventions, and generations. But Earth measures change in drowned continents, subducted oceans, and mountains lifted from the floor of vanished seas. Our civilizations feel immense to us because our lives are brief. To the planet, they are flickers beside the slow breathing of geology. The forgotten oceans of prehistory remind us that the greatest worlds do not always vanish with witnesses. Some disappear in silence, leaving only shells in stone, echoes in mountains, and cold shadows buried deep in the mantle. And one day, the oceans we know, the horizons we trust, the coastlines where our cities shine at night may join them. Because Earth does not remember us through monuments. It remembers only through transformation. And beneath the calm blue skin of the modern world, the old planet is still dreaming of other seas.